Alrighty guys, so I've been working on the MPPT charge controller. This is the large one for the large battery bank that I'm going to be purchasing in the spring. And sorry about the friggin' crappy lighting here. I'm going to actually turn that up just a minute. There we go. So, right here guys, these two connections here are the battery connections. And here is the solar input going to be coming off the flat panels on the roof. And then I installed the, this is a USB connector. If I sit back, maybe I won't get as many shadows on the camera here. But this connects to the MPPT charge controller, and I can plug this into a computer, and it will give me all the data of what's going on with the system. I did not hook up, I gotta buy a lithium circle round battery that goes in here, and that will give the MPPT memory so it can stay, it can remember my settings in case the power is very low. And then I also connected up, this is the temperature probe. There you guys go, temperature probe. And this will go down back here by the batteries. And it has a ground wire, which I grounded right to the wood here. And this thing's pretty solid, so not to worry about that. And yeah, so I will have to pull this guy out though when I do put a lithium battery in there. And I believe I have a lithium at home I can use for that. If not, Dollar Tree. So I was just getting everything kind of prepped here. And this is going to be the Mega Beast that's going to give me decent power in the wintertime and all year round. But especially for the wintertime, guys, because it's just overcast city here in the winter, and it's tough. It's tough surviving on my small solar system. I even had to shut down the projector, which kind of sucks. That's my entertainment. So I'm down to radio right now, but that's the way it is until I get the proper setup. So yeah, and I got the wood stove going. It's starting to slowly warm things up in here. I'm going to put this lid back on once I get the battery and all that other jazz. And then I have to do some major programming on the MPPT charge controller, guys. I have to select what type of batteries these are going to be, obviously sealed AGMs. And then I got to also put in how many cells, how many batteries or cells are going to be hooked up in parallel on this setup. So yeah, not too shabby. So I will be just working on this a little bit. I also have down below here, I'll have to turn the camera. My inverter, and it has its own large remote on-off switch, so I can kind of place this out of the way and then hook up a I plan on using this power strip. Let me grab it. There's the power strip here, and it has a 15 amp resettable fuse in here. Not that I want to run anything that heavy duty, but we'll go from there. So this is a 1000 watt pure sine wave, and I was very lucky to get this because These are rare in Canada, pure sine wave inverters. Unless you have tons of money, it's pretty hard getting one of these. But this should run, this will run my fridge and any other 120 volt appliance that I need. Because the AC is going to be running off of propane, so it kind of eliminates that from this guy. And not too shabby. So it's got a USB port right there. It's got the phone connection, and that's the remote on-off switch. And then 2 receptacles, a couple fans, one in the front, one in the back. Stickers coming off this thing. And then here is where the magic happens. This is where I'm going to connect the positive off of my big battery bank and the negative, and then I'll seal it with these things, so obviously no contact between one another, and should work okay. And then the ground, I'm going to probably just ground it off to that other ground on the MPPT charge controller and just go from there, because that's the way it is. Now, I bought these terminal connectors, guys. They're fairly heavy gauge, but I need to peel off the insulation on this 0 gauge wire in order for these things to fit over. They will just fit, and once crimped, that'll be pretty damn tight, so I'll have to trim off an edge there of insulation and do that. But that's the way to go. And I also have my terminal blocks for the batteries. So the battery poles go inside. Well, this goes on top inside, and the pole will go inside of there. And I can tighten it down with this nut here. And then I got to tighten down this nut, and then it has obviously the heavy gauge wire, and it shouldn't be that much of a stretch to get. It won't be too long of a connection, because we're just going from one terminal to the next in parallel. So I'm guessing about 4 inches, something like that per terminal, and hopefully I have enough heavy gauge wire to do that. It's 50, I think this is 50 feet or 25 feet per go, and we'll see how everything makes out. I can't waste this wire, so I gotta be super careful on measurements and cutting, because that's super expensive. But once that is set up, I'll be good. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, guys, you guys know I'll be doing a what is it? Wind turbine setup, and the leftover jumper cables and this heavy gauge wire from Pierre, his power pack. I think what I'm going to do is use this setup. I'm just going to get rid of the jumpers, cut those off, but I'm going to keep the quick connect to use, and then I also have the other end here. So I'm guessing this part will be perfect for going inside the turbine, and then I will connect here this direction, I guess, or how does that go? Okay, this way. Well, we'll figure it out if that's the same setup. This should plug into there anyway, though. Let's see. Or is that... That's opposite, so this must be off of something else. But anyway, we'll use it. Well, we're going to use this heavy gauge wire for the wind turbine, and then that will be connected to the batteries. Now, the wind turbine will run separately off its own little charge controller. So the PWM, or whatever the hell's in the wind turbine, it's going to be on its own and have to, it'll adjust by way of the batteries there, so whatever, that'll work. And what else do we got? I think that's it. So yeah, so once those batteries go on sale, guys, I'm just gonna go there and scoop up order 6. Obviously they won't have that many in stock. I'll probably, if I'm lucky, be able to walk away with at least 2 of them, and then wait for the rest to come in. But in the meantime, I can carefully measure the length of wire I need to connect from one battery to the next, because they're all going to be the same battery. It's going to be the same measurement. And that way I can get everything prepared before the batteries come, and then it should be just a couple hours to hook up and go from there. And then once I'm hooked up here, I will be running a 2 lines to my entertainment setup, because I want the big battery setup to run my entertainment setup, because the little guy is not keeping up, like I say, on these winter days. Can I see that? Still cool in here, especially back here because we're farthest point of the tiny house. But yeah, so that's on the way. We're gonna be working on that. So stay tuned, guys. I just gotta wait till these batteries go on sale before I can spend any money on them, because if not, it'll just murder my bank account. Well, it's gonna murder it anyway, but I'm not gonna spend any extra money that I don't have to. You know, so hopefully they have a spring sale or something coming up. I'll buy the stuff, get them set up in here, and then that will be a huge leap for the tiny house, because what I'm running on now is like 30 amp hour batteries, and if you cut that in half, well, I don't let them get below 12.3. I start getting antsy and shut stuff off. So, you know, that's not much to work with when you're off the grid, especially on the winter days. So once this setup goes, we'll be set, guys. So hopefully stay tuned, subscribe, thumb up, all that fun stuff. We'll see you on the next one.